Happy Thursday, everybody. What is up? It is week 4 of the NFL. It is Thursday night. It is Club Fantasy's DFS and Chill, our weekly DFS show. I'm your host, Ryan Weisse. We're going to get into the main slate for Sunday. With me, as always, my co-host, the author of Kyra's Cash Grabs, the creator of the show, Kyra Wiaterowski. Kyra, how are you tonight?
Ryan, I'm doing so great. Couldn't be better because tonight we're chilling with my, I guess he's my article counterpart.
Yes.
And Captain Extraordinaire, Oklahomie Doug. Doug, are you ready to give the people some great tips and value for this Thursday night cat fight between the Bengals and Jaguars?
You know it. Them former number one picks there going at it here. And if them Jags can continue getting pressure up front, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, I was going to say, as Kyra mentioned, we're keeping it all in the family tonight. Doug does another article with Club Fantasy. So Kyra does her hugely popular Kyra's Cash Grabs every Saturday. Doug does the small slate showdowns, Oh Captain, My Captain. So you guys are the heart and soul of DFS at Club Fantasy, and we appreciate you.
I guess you could say we're kind of like Eskimo step brother, riding brothers.
My goodness.
Yeah, something of the sort. I'll take it.
So as I mentioned, we are a main slate show. We're going to focus mostly on the Sunday main slate, but it's Thursday. We know you guys want to make some money, so we're going to start off with the Thursday slate. And Doug, normally I go to Kyra first, but it just seems right to go with you on this because you write the Oh Captain, My Captain article. Who's your captain for Thursday night?
Right on. And just a quick plug on that article is we started out, it's a new article that Josh had came up with, and we kind of felt things out for the first 3 weeks. And
yes, we did.
And what we decided is, sometimes them Thursday games are, nobody wants anything to do with them things, and then you come along a game like Tampa Bay, New England, Sunday night. I'd say the general consensus would rather either read an article on that game or Chargers, Raiders, for first place, Definitely don't want to read about the Jags and the Bengals. So, therefore, I've left it up to the old boss man there to decide which one it is this week. It'll be Tampa Bay versus New England. But, this Thursday night matchup, I've got DJ Chark in my captains. I like the way they've connected over the last couple of weeks. Lawrence and Chark there. And the Bengals can get beat up top, and they're actually only ran on 33% of the time it's a run. For kind of comparison, the Jaguars are ran on 49% of the time.
Wow.
Therefore, you're going to see a lot more passing from the Jaguars than you normally do. So I think DJ Chark can catch one of those. Let's hope 2 of those for a TD. So I like DJ Chark.
I like it. Kyra, how about you?
So I guess I'm going to go with the opposite effect over there for the Bengals because the Jags are going to be throwing a lot tonight because I believe that the Bengals are going to pretty much run away with this one. My captain tonight is going to be Joe Mixon. Yeah. And I like a couple things going on with my captain spot. I always like it to be someone from the team that I think is favored to win. So obviously, the Bengals, I picked them for that reason, just being that I need them to get the most amount of points out of them. I just like to keep it with the favorited team.
Yeah,
there's a middle of the pack over under here at 46. The under has hit in the Jags' last 2 games, and the Bengals are 5-1 in their last 6 home games. So it is seeming that it's going to be the Bengals. Experts smarter than me do predict it's the under. So in a game that's set to hit the under, give me the winning team's bell cow running back. I think some people forget about Joe Mixon last year when he faced the Jaguars.
Yeah. He did a couple things in that game, right?
Yeah, he impressed. He's pretty much probably the reason why we chase him for forever. I know he's disappointed the last couple of weeks. He's gave you some single-digit games. But last time Joe Mixon played against the Jaguars, he had an epic game rushing for 151 yards, 30 receiving yards, and a career high of 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, boy.
And Mixon's seeing full workloads. His rushing attempts last 3 weeks have been 29, 20, and 18. Should be a positive game script for him. This would be his 4th game in a row with 70 or more yards from scrimmage if he's able to do it. Sounds like an easy pick to me. I'll take Mixon. I know he's expensive. I know that sucks to have an expensive captain. But I think that
we're going to help out with that here in a second. So.
This under definitely favors the run game for the Bengals to me. So I'd rather get Mixon. If I'm trying to be a little bit cheaper, I'm going to be honest. I don't mind like a Tyler Boyd in a situation like that, so you can fit a couple better people into your lineups. But my favorite is by far Joe Mixon.
And I think you two have kind of already told the story about what we're going to call the chalk burn, the guy we think is going to burn us this week, because Doug, with those great stats about how often Jacksonville is able to run the ball, and it's not very often because they're playing from behind, and Kyra telling the story that, Cincinnati's a pretty heavy favorite, I'm going to guess that led to your chalk burn, Kyra, for the week.
It actually really did. My chalk burn is going to be James Robinson. He's pretty highly priced in this game at 9,400 on DraftKings. And I know people want to rejoice because he had a good fantasy day last week, but I'm going to pump the brakes here a little bit. The Bengals defense has actually been pretty good versus the run so far this season. They've only given up 174 yards on the ground. That's 8th best in the NFL. They've also only given up the 25th most fantasy points per game. 2 running backs. That's an average of around 13.5 points per game. It's pretty low. I think that the game script will not favor James Robinson. Urban Meyer's a little unpredictable in his usage with Robinson as well. I'd rather pay slightly less for the Jaguars pass catchers than I would somebody like James Robinson in this showdown.
And then, Doug, I think yours is the exact same reason why you're probably avoiding Jamar Chase on the other side.
That's exactly right, brother. And this game's in Cincinnati, right? Correct?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Okay. All right, check this out. Cincinnati versus the run at home. 67 yards. That's it. That's all I got to say. Last game, they held Najee Harris and the Pittsburgh Steelers 45 rushing yards.
Yeah, if Najee Harris and the Steelers can't run, I don't think you're going to see the Jacksonville Jaguars pull it off.
Yeah, no one's getting more volume than Najee Harris.
Right. Jacksonville on the road, 160 yards per game given up to the running back. So back to Kyra's stats and back to the Jamar Chase call. If you not forget, last week he did most of his damage on 4 catches, 65 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Sounds a little fluky to me. For that kind of money, I'm avoiding.
Yeah, if you take away those 2 touchdowns, all of a sudden that's 10 fantasy points, and that's not winning you any money in daily.
You're not winning nothing. And Ryan, you know how I like to kind of go away from the chalk. That's why the DJ Chark call was, and I can see a lot of people firing up Jamar Chase tonight because of his big week last week, just stat watching. So
there you go. Kyra mentioned
get rookie fever. They see a rookie doing good. They want to get
a piece of it.
Or maybe he won them a quarter, last week, and they're like, "Oh, baby, let's roll on it."
Exactly.
Kyra mentioned that Joe Mixon is expensive, and he's even more expensive if you put him in your captain seat. So you need some cheap people to fill in the bottom of your roster. Doug, you have an interesting choice. Talk to me about Carlos Hyde.
And this is more of, it's kind of just a gut call because I see him completely shutting James Robinson down and maybe getting a little bit flustered, maybe letting a block or 2 go and pretty much just losing some of his snaps to Carlos Hyde tonight. Hyde can catch the ball. I know James Robinson can too, but if you're working him first, second, third down of multiple drives, then you can let Hyde stay in and tote that pickle and catch that pickle. So this is a deep play for tonight, but I like his chances tonight.
Speaking of deep play, Kyra, talk to me about your deep sea dive, because I'll be honest, I didn't know he was on this roster until certain trades went down, and I had completely forgotten. So
I'm sure that most people have. So this is why this is a good choice, and it's a cheap one at $1,000. I'm going to go with the Jaguars tight end Jacob Hollister. One thing I noticed when I was doing my showdown lineups tonight was DraftKings said that points for Dan Arnold aren't even going to count for this evening.
Wow.
So that being said, the other tight end. And anyways, it's a short week for Dan Arnold. He was just traded to the Jaguars.
I was thinking when I statted the game out, I gave him a single target, and I was ready to take that away because I just didn't know how much they would even play him.
Right. He's only had, 3 practices with them. It's a lot to learn a whole new offense. So they just traded for him on Monday. It's a short week. Hollister still should see the majority of the snaps. He actually, surprisingly, I know that these things go untraced because we don't really pay attention to the Jaguars offense too heavily, especially, someone like Jacob Hollister, but he had 6 targets last week. And as per usual, they will be playing from behind. So I do like Hollister for the cheap. Lawrence has been throwing and targeting to the tight end position. And the thing I like about showdowns is kind of like what Doug was just saying, you almost create yourself a story. You have to tell yourself a story of how you think this game is going to go, because you're only playing a certain amount of players in this small lineup. So I can see a case where there's just no running game even necessary for the Jaguars. I mean, I don't know if it'll be as bad as the Eagles running the ball 2 times on Monday night. I don't think it's going to be that bad, but I think that all of their receiving core has some kind of value. So I'll take Jacob Hollister super cheap for $1,000. And I also even like the Bengals kicker, Evan McPherson. The Jags are allowing an average of 2.7 field goals per game. So if you're trying to get cheap there, because I know you want to get all those expensive Bengals in there, he's on a cheaper note as well.
I like it. Guys, that's Thursday night. That game's going to kick off in about 2 hours. So get those showdown matchups in. But we, as I mentioned before, are a main slate show. So we are going to jump to the main slate. We break everything down by position. We're going to give you some good plays, some bad plays, some cheap plays. So we're going to start with quarterback, and we're going to start with the bad stuff because let's get that out of the way. So we call this segment Chalk Burn, and I want to know, Kyra, which chalk quarterback is going to burn people on Sunday?
One that people are going to hate to hear it because he has not burned really anyone thus far. And listen, I know how good that Baby Yoda has been, and all hail to Hail Murray, but it's Kyler Murray for me this week. This is a tough divisional matchup for them. They're going up against a red-hot 3-0 Los Angeles Rams. The Rams have been putting up almost 30 points a game or more every week, while the defense has allowed no more than 24 points per game. They're middle of the pack in fantasy points per game allowed to opposing quarterbacks at 16. But the Rams have pretty much owned the Cardinals over their last couple of matchups. And in Murray's career versus the Rams, he's scored no more than 20 fantasy points a game. It's team. If Murray struggles against, at that high of a price tag, I'll pass and pivot to a better matchup and option. I tend to not really love divisional matchups when I'm setting my lineups because they are weird. You'll see Murray ball out all year long, and then he plays somebody he's familiar with, who's familiar with him, and they shut him down. So I'm good.
Something tells me this game might come up again a couple more times. So.
Oh yeah, well, a lot of people want to target it because they think these are high. These are both really great offenses, and they've been kicking ass. Since the season started. But I'm gonna steer away from Kyler Murray at the expensive price tag this week. I'll pivot to somebody else for sure.
Absolutely. Doug, talk to me about the high price quarterback you think is going to hurt some people.
All right, I'm looking at a team that just got beat by the Detroit Lions and now travels to Mile High Stadium in the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos control the opponent's average time of possession by over a minute and a half. They are at 23 minutes and 24 seconds. The opponent's average time of possession. Check this out. Baltimore on the road is averaging the opponent 31 minutes per ball. What I'm saying is Baltimore doesn't have the ball. Lamar Jackson cannot score points. We know about Denver's secondary, but actually their rushing defense has been out of this world. Take away Lamar's legs, take away those third down conversions, and you see a very unattempted Lamar Jackson throwing and running. So
yeah, and if he's not getting the volume, he's not going to do anything. So
I'm big.
He's been sidelined at practice too, the last 2 practices. I know he had a back soreness. I guess that's what he's dealing with, and he should be fine. But he's playing hurt too. On top of it,
he missed some practice last week with illness as well, so non-COVID illness. So.
Yeah, he's going through it right now.
Well, if they're skipping those guys, who are they playing? Doug, give me your favorite quarterback play of the week.
Matthew Stafford.
I thought we might come back to this game.
I like me some Matt Stafford. It's almost like that Carlos Hyde. I just like the way things are flowing for the Rams. Seems like he's sharing the ball. I think Bobby Trees gets a little bit more oriented in the offense this week, and I think they're just rolling. And the Cardinals just gave up, I believe 3,000 yards to the Adam Thielen and Kirk Cousins Minnesota Vikings. So fire up those Matt Stafford shares.
I like it. This might be the game of the week for me specifically. I underestimated the Rams like crazy, and the Cardinals were one of my 4 Super Bowl picks that I put money on. So this is a big game this early in the season. I'm real interested to see how this game plays out. Kyra, talk to me about your favorite play.
Yeah, so listen, I know I sound like a broken record here on some
I was going to say, I feel like we've heard this name a few times.
You definitely have, but it's not said without good reason, all right? And my favorite play of the week is going to be Jalen Hurts. And to quote Jalen Hurts, with probably the most epic thing that I've ever heard in my existence, especially recently, look, if you take you a deuce, you don't sit there and look at it, you flush it and move on. And that's the same about my choice this week, going with Jalen Hurts after he had a sickening Monday night game where Jalen Hurts showed us, hey, even when I play terrible, my fantasy floor is still relatively safe. Yeah. Garbage time still counts, guys, last I checked. He's scored at least 21 fantasy points in every outing, whether it was good or bad. I full well expect the Eagles to get creamed by an angry Patrick Mahomes coming off 2 losses in a row. This is Andy Reid's homecoming game to Philadelphia. Therefore, I expect Jalen to be needing to put up big numbers at an attempt to keep up with Chiefs offense. And the Chiefs don't make that a very hard thing to do. They've actually allowed the second most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. They've given up almost 30 plus points a game each week. They don't have a great secondary at all. They can score, you know what I mean? But you can also score on them. Jalen Hurts is set up for a really nice matchup this week, and I wouldn't be afraid to use him. We're just going to have to flush it and move on with Hurts.
There you go. Obviously 2 different teams, but you hope that maybe Lamar Jackson set down a blueprint for how to beat the Chiefs, and especially how for fantasy quarterbacks to beat the Chiefs a few weeks ago. So
yeah, thus far it's been rushing quarterbacks that they've faced, really. I mean, It was Lamar Jackson, even Baker Mayfield, they're run first offense. And that's the thing is, like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, they're really good they're really bad against defending the run, but those don't really run anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I just want to go back real quick to those LA Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
Arizona Cardinals has given up 22 completions per game.
Wow.
Let's take a look at the 3 teams that they played through 3 weeks. Minnesota, Jacksonville, and Tennessee. We all want us some Tannehill right now, don't we?
Yeah, all high-powered offenses, just like the Rams.
Rookie quarterback and Captain Kirk Cousins. So,
I was going to say, Cousins is the only one that makes a ton of sense there, but if you're giving up 22 completions to Tannehill and Trevor Lawrence, Trevor Lawrence is more likely to throw 22 balls to the wrong team, so that's not something you're wanting to see. So.
In steps Matthew Gunslinger Stafford.
Yep.
I love him this year.
60 times. Stafford.
I love it. Let's talk about some low dollar plays. Kyra, deep sea dives. Who's your deep sea dive at quarterback this week?
Yeah, so I didn't have a lot of fun deep sea diving this week on the lower tier quarterback.
It was a weird week. I was building rosters this morning, and I was not happy with cheap quarterbacks. But you guys both picked quarterbacks. I say you guys both picked quarterbacks that I have lineups built around. So.
Yeah, no, it was pretty ugly down there. They were priced low for a damn reason. So my deep sea dive is Taylor Heineke. I know everyone always wants to call him Tyler Heineke. It drives me nuts. So I'm going to emphasize Taylor Heineke. But Heineke has some upside. He still is a total punt option, in my opinion. I don't love it. But he gets Atlanta this week, and he showed that he is capable of putting up fantasy points in a hard matchup. He's hasn't had an easy one thus far. He's put up around 24 points versus the Bills. and the Giants. So he should do well here when he gets actually an easy one. Atlanta gives up the 4th most fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks. And Heineke actually provides you some rushing upside. I mean, he's not a world beater like Lamar Jackson or, Kyler Murray or anything, but he does have a rushing upside.
If you let Ron Rivera tell it, Ron Rivera was quoted last week as saying he's a top 5 athletic person at quarterback in this league. He said he's not Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, but he's top 5, and that's a bold statement right there.
Yeah, that's 5 out of 32. Really good quarter. So
yeah, exactly.
Riverboat Ron ain't ever been scared to tap himself on the back, though.
Sure
ain't that the damn truth? All right, Doug, talk to me about your cheap quarterback.
All right, you know how I was talking about the completions per game. Check this out. The Baltimore Ravens on the road, 28 completions per game. In steps Mr. Teddy Bridgewater, who has a total QPR on the season for 116. That means the man might not be getting as many touchdowns as the rest of the league and getting his name and his price on up there. Yeah. But what he has been doing has been completing the ball. I think he's a great play this week.
Yeah, he's hitting almost 70% if I remember correctly.
Yep. Love him this week.
I love it, and he's going to come up later, so I'm not going to get too much into it, but I adore Noah Fant anywhere you can play him this week, and I think his name's going to come up later. Let's jump over to running backs, though.
I think you're right.
There's great running backs out there, but a few of them may not be the guys you want to play this week. Doug, talk to me about why we're avoiding Dalvin Cook, because I think I know, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah, and most people do know it. Already banged up. Coming into this game, they haven't been, he still has his splash plays. He can still break one. Don't get me wrong. It just, the Vikings ain't clicking. And when the Vikings ain't clicking, Cook ain't clicking. He's banged up. Excuse me. Sit, Dalvin Cook. Sit down.
Yeah, and even Alexander Mattison, if Cook weren't to play this game, that would not be a pivot I would make against the Cleveland defense.
Yep.
Not the same idea as last week by any means.
They had kind of had an off week last week. Kind of got healthy again. Some of the third string guys got to play. That secondary is going to be licking those chops, and that line's going to be fired up. I think Myles Garrett is still sacking his quarterback.
Yeah, I'd say that's the problem. Myles Garrett may not be able to sack Kirk Cousins because he's still chasing Justin Fields around in that other game.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, freaking Sacagawea over there last weekend.
So, Kyra, it's funny. I was looking at my lineups this morning, and I was a little upset that I didn't fit my boy Aaron Jones into any of my lineups. But then I look at the show sheet, and now I feel way better about it. So talk to me about benching Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I feel good that you made that decision as well. My chalk burn at running back this week is Aaron Jones. There's just lots of good running back matchups this week, but Jones is the only one that, to me, stuck out a bit. Compared to everybody else. The Steelers really haven't been giving up too much against the run on defense. They haven't had a rushing touchdown against them so far, pretty much because they're just much easier to pass on. That's really what's happening here. They've given up the 30th most fantasy points per game to opposing running backs. Not very good. There's 32 teams. They rank 30th. Yeah. Jones hasn't put up a ton of rushing yards in general. He hasn't broke up over 82 yet this year. His production has really come mostly on touchdowns, and that's always bound to come down. They haven't really given up touchdowns to the run, so I'll pass on Jones this week.
I like it. So if you're passing on Jones, who's your favorite play?
My favorite play this week is probably going to raise some eyebrows, especially because he hasn't lived up to –
raising my fists.
Yeah, he hasn't really lived up to expectations, though, as far as the ones we've set for him. So my favorite play this week is going to be Jonathan Taylor, and I know he's been disappointing so far this season, and I think most of that just has to do with overall poor offensive play going up against some very good opposing offenses. So it's kind of – he's just kind of been scripted out, Yeah. And they've been getting Heinze super involved in the passing game. So when the Colts are facing somebody that's a good offense, they have to keep up with them. You know what I mean? So the way that they do that, unfortunately, a little annoying in the passing game there with Hines. They'll use him instead of Taylor. But this week they go up against Miami, whose offense is also not a very sure thing right now, not a scary thing by any means. I don't think that Taylor's going to get scripted out in this one. There's a 43-point over-under. So when the under is pretty low, that favors the running back. So I do like a running back in Taylor this week because Miami's giving up the second most points per game to running backs. And I think he's in a spot to bounce back this week and should be pretty low owned given the fact that he has been super shitty. And I will note that I sometimes do this. I cheat. I like to give a quick, more than one person.
Oh, you cheater.
Yeah, always. But I'll note that I do love Swift this week, just because I think that he's always a value. They keep putting him as a value. He's been great so far this year. And until I know who's playing for the quarterback for Chicago, I'm pretty good. So I like Swift.
Perfect. And
saying he shouldn't get scripted out either.
I don't think so. I think you're going to be very happy to hear why Doug likes his favorite play of the week, because let's talk about getting scripted out of a game by your own coach for God knows what reason after averaging 15 yards a carry. Doug, talk to me about Miles Sanders this week.
Sweet Tom Tucker's T-A-T-top. Guess how many yards the Kansas City Chiefs give up per game on the road? I had to go to 3 different sites just to make sure this was true.
It's more than a couple?
It's off just here and there on a few sites, but check this out. 251 yards per game.
That sounds really good for Hurts and Sanders, if you're asking me. So
I don't care if you ain't gave the running back a snap all year. Surely one of those offensive coaches can tap somebody on the shoulder and go, "Hey, the Chiefs suck against the run on the road. We should probably give Sanders the ball." I think it gets through this week, and he's gonna go off. Off.
There you go.
Oh, man, I like the sound of that.
I was going to say, I think the fantasy world likes the sound of that because you guys both have running backs who have kind of let people down this year.
251 yards.
He has to, right?
And they run the ball 52. The opponent on the road, well, they'd be at home. The home team runs the ball 52.3% of the time against the Chiefs on the road, and they've gave up 251 yards per game. Not total. Per game, folks. This is buy. You know that guy in the stock markets? This is the week. This is the Sanders week.
Yeah, I mean, and let's be serious. After the scrutinizing of not running the ball on Monday night, I'm pretty sure that Nick Sirianni,
and that was my exact thought.
I mean, he's going to want to win the city of Philadelphia back over. He's going to want to win everyone back over. He's going to have to run the ball. So I also really loved Miles Sanders this week. I just didn't want to take so many Eagles because, I can't have people thinking that's all I care about.
That's how rumors get started.
Exactly.
Doug, talk to me about your deep sea dive at running back this week.
Mine or his?
Let's go with Doug. Doug.
Javonte Williams, Denver Broncos versus the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have been good against the run, giving up 84 yards per game on the road. But I think that affects Melvin Gordon more than it affects Javonte Williams. Kind of like I liked Carlos Hyde in tonight's matchup rather than James Robinson. It's kind of the same way here. I look for Melvin Gordon to get shut down, and in comes the upstart rookie who is starting to toast that pickle a little bit more. So, Javonte Williams.
It seems I made the joke that if Javonte Williams doesn't get stuffed and fumble the ball in the one last week, Melvin Gordon might already be out of a job. But unfortunately, that's how it went down. So maybe Williams can redeem himself this week. Kyra, talk to me about your cheap running back.
In due time for Javonte Williams. But anyhow, my deep sea dive this week for running back is going to be Zac Moss. And so the Bills are set to just absolutely blow out the Texans. I forget what the line is, but I think it's like
the biggest line in history, ain't it?
Yeah,
it's like 14 or something.
Oh, I think it's 15. I'm not even. It's like I don't know. It's something absurd. Yeah, it's heavy duty. So,
Thank you.
you know, when a team is so heavily favored, I do love me a good running back from him. So Moss has been trending up since being a surprise and active in week 1. Each week he's been active. He scored a touchdown. The Bills offense is going to always be putting him in a position to score. They're very good. I mean, as we know, we haven't seen Josh Allen really attempt running as much since Moss has been active. He's only vultured 1 rushing touchdown so far. Because honestly, they have 258 million reasons to get Moss rolling, especially in a game that should be an easy win. It's obviously going to be a blowout. He's going to. I expect him to at least be enough to be like a low end RB2. He's made something of his opportunity so far, so I like Moss. He's pretty damn cheap. You could do a lot worse. I think that he's a good call for a deep sea dive this week.
One of the things I liked about Moss, we talk about this often, and this is really big in daily. I mean, it hurts in season long, but it's really big in daily, is when a guy fumbles, you're always worried that that's the end of his day. And in Moss's first game, he fumbled and still scored 2 touchdowns. And so you like to know that the coach has the faith in him at that point. So
yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily scared of either of the running backs in this game. I'll take Singletary or Zac Moss. I just prefer Zac Moss because I see him pulling a little bit ahead.
Before we jump to wide receivers, we're just going to point out that Josh was just really impressed with Doug's vernacular of tote that pickle. So we're going to jump over to wide receivers. Just a quick recap on running backs. You are avoiding Aaron Jones and Dalvin Cook. You're starting Jonathan Taylor, Miles Sanders, and if you're looking cheap, Zac Moss, Javonte Williams. I didn't do that on quarterback. I just want to quickly run down. You're avoiding Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, starting Jalen Hurts and Matt Stafford. And if you're looking cheap, both of them recommend maybe not looking cheap this week, but Taylor Heineke and Teddy Bridgewater. Doug, start with me, or talk to me about, because you pulled the Kyra on me here. You cheated and fit 2 people in. So talk to me about the 2 chalk players that are going to burn you at wide receiver this week.
Well, it kind of goes back to the Browns having a bye slash bye week last week and getting rested up. And that secondary kind of having, a little bit of time to lick their wounds. But
the Browns might have been able to start prepping for this game at halftime last week.
I think they did. That's the rumors. John Johnson got everybody in a circle and started, just doing there in the grass on the sideline.
I like it.
But anyway, back to me in studio. The Browns. When I'm looking through DraftKings, I see Justin Jefferson before I see Adam Thielen. And whenever I seen this question on the show sheet, my immediate mind went to Adam Thielen. But then I see Justin Jefferson above him on DK for more money. So that's why I included both of them. It's because they were both kind of high priced, and I think Cleveland shuts them down.
I like it. Kyra, you got somebody else for me. Talk to me about him.
So my chalk burn this week at wide receiver is going to be DeAndre Hopkins. If I didn't like Murray this week, it should come probably as no surprise that I don't care much for Hopkins at his high price tag either. Arizona's just been spreading the ball around, hence his dip in production, and I'm sure they will choose to get the ball to the receivers that aren't being blanketed by Jalen Ramsey this week. Hopkins is just yet to pull ahead in the target department. So far, he's had 18 targets. Green has had 18 targets. Kirk has had 17 targets. Rondale Moore has had 15. Edmonds has had 17. This is full well spread the hell out. So,
and even Max Williams, the tight end, is starting to jump up in that department as
well. But prior to this year, I don't think anyone could have even told you who the tight end was for the Arizona Cardinals. You know what I mean? Like, he was irrelevant, but they're really spreading the ball around. So just to even revisit the Ramsey treatment in DeAndre Hopkins and Ramsey's last 7 matchups against each other, studying over the games, Ramsey has won 4, tied 1, and only lost 2 matchups going up against Hopkins. So he tends to get the best nuke a majority of the time. So all that being said, I think that Arizona will just find ways to move the ball and not force feed Hopkins, especially while we know he isn't 100%. He has those injured ribs, and again, Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, these 2 used to battle in the AFC South, and they just followed each other to the NFC West. So I like that. Well, if we're avoiding 3 of the best wide receivers in fantasy football right now, who are we playing, Kyra? Who's your favorite play at wide receiver this week?
So my favorite play at wide receiver this week, there was a lot of them, I'm not going to lie, but I simplified this because I think this is somebody that people kind of came off of. And it's going to be Deebo Samuel. I know we saw him take a step back last week in production, but if you actually watch that game, you realize that was largely accredited to Jair Alexander, which normally that is. When you play the Packers, they shut down your wide receiver one because Jair is just so good. He was draped all over Samuel, and Jimmy Garoppolo being trash in that game didn't really help either. But you watch Jimmy try to force feed Samuel, and he wanted to get him the ball, and he had to settle for targeting for Ayuk and Kittle because Samuel was so well covered. I just remember keep watching and thinking like, damn, they really keep trying to get Samuel this ball, and he's draped. He's not getting anything. I think it's because they know he is a massive playmaker for them. He had 10 targets on only 5 receptions last week for 52 yards, but the fact that they kept fading him anyway showed me his importance. He's got a 36% target share over there on the 49ers. It's pretty freaking high. Now he gets to go up against Seattle, who has given up the 13th most fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers and the first most points to opposing running backs. And Samuel, he could essentially be a hybrid of both. They do design run plays for Samuel from time to time because he's a big play dude. His rookie season, where he was last fully healthy last year, he was shut down. He got hurt. But versus Seattle, he put up a clinic. He had over 100 yards in each game. And with a murky running back situation right now for the San Francisco 49ers, he could be used pretty creatively and often. So I do really like Deebo Samuel this week for his price.
Yeah, we can jump up to another team with a murky running back situation all of a sudden. Doug, talk to me about your favorite wide receiver play this week.
DJ Moore. I find myself getting him in almost all of my main slates unless he's
I love him.
captain showdowns. And this week he gets the Dallas Cowboys, who are giving up 331.7 yards per game in the air. Holy guacamole, that is a lot. So I like DJ Moore to get about 116 of them with touchdown and a half over.
Wasn't he targeted on 10 of the first 12 completions last Thursday night or whatever?
Oh, yeah, it was beautiful.
And another good point to kind of tie in what Kyra said, Moore is another guy, especially now with CMC down. They'll design run plays for DJ Moore and get him involved in that too.
Another little nugget here. The Dallas Cowboys give up an average QBR of 92.6. Just for instances, the New England Patriots give up 34.
Oh my.
Back to you in studio.
I love it. So those are the good plays. Now we might have to dive a little bit if we're paying up at any position. So Doug, talk to me about a cheap wide receiver play this week.
Ooh, and see, this might not ever been done before. I know how Kyra puts 2 on there sometimes. Mm-hmm. I did that this time, but
would you do 3?
has she ever like just put 1 on, but then gave you 2 on the show?
She literally just did it 2 segments ago.
Yeah, I can't be stopped.
I'm going with Emmanuel Sanders, 6 targets, 5 receptions, and 94 yards last game. I like the connection. Kyra said they're just going to keep throwing in Buffalo because they don't have no choice. And last one, Tim Patrick, because I like old Teddy. Tim Patrick's coming on. He's coming on. So Tim Patrick.
There we go. Kyra, you got a cheap wide receiver I like a lot.
It's the deep dive. Exactly. That's how I envision it.
We got Doug with the comic book acting it out for us now.
I love the animations because this is what I think of as I'm writing it. I'm like,
I love it.
Writing that shit. All right. Anyways, so my deep side CD. Oh my god, my
Doug
deep
has us
side.
all
I know
discombobulated.
he's got me out of sorts. He cracks me up. But my deep sea dive is going to be Jalen Waddle. And holy targets, Batman, Jacoby Brissett stepped in and was like, give me all the Waddle and Gesicki possible.
I think Jacoby Brissett might have started Jalen Waddle.
No, he had to. He had him in DFS.
Boy, he looked bad. God, he looked so bad.
Jacoby won the Millie Maker probably. We don't even know it because he just force-fed the shit out of Jalen Waddle. But anyhow, last week he did have 13 targets. That was on and caught 12 receptions, only 58 yards. So that is underwhelming. But that was also against the Raiders, who have been holding up wide receivers in check for the most part. Shockingly, who would have known? But the Raiders have actually been pretty damn good on defense. But now he gets the Colts, who haven't been keeping wide receivers in check for the most part, especially in the slot. They've gotten owned by Lockett and Kupp in the first 2 weeks, and they gave a tutty to Chester freaking Rogers in week 3. So Indy is giving up the second most tight ends in the league to two wide receivers at 7 touchdowns on the year so far. So I feel pretty damn good deep sea diving with Waddle in this matchup. Only $4,900 on DraftKings, $5,400 on FanDuel. That's not a bad price at all.
I like it. So just to recap at wide receiver, we are avoiding DeAndre Hopkins and both Minnesota wide receivers. You are starting Deebo Samuel and DJ Moore. I will warn everybody who plays on FanDuel, they are in a ton of my main slate lineups, so we're washing each other out there. And then if we're looking deep, we're looking Jalen Waddle, Emmanuel Sanders, and we're going to throw in Tim Patrick for the Denver Broncos as well. So we're going to jump to tight end. The names on Chalkburn are just heartbreaking names. So Kyra, talk to me about my boy, Mark Mandrews.
Yeah, Mark Mandrews. They're all
good week, and now you're telling me to avoid him?
I know. Trust me, but that's the story of Mark Andrews. You know, he's very up and down, and he'll stress you out just to bring you back up again. And this week he's facing the Broncos. It's their
You've just
first
described
time.
an abusive relationship with Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
Psychologically abusive.
Unfortunately, I guess I just understand a little too much. So anyways,
oh boy.
This week the Broncos face its first real offense in the Baltimore Ravens, but I still think their defense is actually legit. Andrews is just so inconsistent with that up and down play, and if I'm going to pay high dollar at tight end, I definitely want a sure thing. You know, he's fine for redraft. He's fine for dynasty. I'm not saying you should be sitting Mark Andrews by any means, but for DFS, I'm totally cool with staying away. He just had 2 solid matchups, and this one just ain't it. Lamar hasn't practiced. You know, I said he's dealing with that back soreness. Plus, they get Bateman back possibly this week. I think it's just an overall low-scoring game in general. And I just rather look elsewhere. I'm not crazy about Mark Andrews in this one.
Yep. And then, as if it could get worse, my boy Oklahomie telling me to avoid Darren Waller. What is going on?
I tend to always fade tight ends versus the LA Chargers. The way that the secondary clicks, the way Kenneth Murray's been playing football there, the pressure. I know that Carr, peppers him with targets. I think that's more of a reason why the Chargers implement a game plan to specifically put Derwin James on Darren Waller and pretty much follow him around. I do think he plays in the box and kind of shadows Waller this game. Therefore, I'm avoiding for that price. I'm staying away.
Before we move on, when you have celebrities like Doug on the show, his fan base follows. Our buddy Dave from Fantasy Go, from the Fantasy and Frames podcast, is asking, "How's Deborah, Doug?"
Great. I've got them locked up. Oh, look, hey, they're on. Get off the fence. They're right there. Hey, y'all want to see them? Here, hold on.
Oh man,
y'all see them?
What we got going on out there?
Y'all see them?
I don't know what I'm looking for.
There's chickens over there.
Oh, okay.
Dad, get off the fence.
He's scaring away all the chicks.
Okay. All right.
Oh my goodness. only on the Club Fantasy DFS.
I mean, that only happens in Oklahoma. There's no freaking way I ever have to worry about chickens coming into my yard disrupting anything. So
get out of the yard.
Doug, I'm gonna let you start. If you can pull yourself together, I'm going to let you start with tight end because I adore Kyra's tight end play. Not that I don't like yours, but I am worried about yours because there's an old man nipping at his heels every week. Talk to me about why I should like Dallas Goedert this week.
Okay, secret time. I hate playing tight end. Okay? Stick at secret time.
Okay.
Not secret time. Kansas City Chiefs, bad at defense. Dallas Goedert, good at football. Let's go.
All right. Are you worried about Zach Ertz, the playing time?
No, I'm not because
I say even the Philly fan immediately shakes their head.
Yeah, no. I mean, Dallas Goedert, he just looks good. He looks better than Ertz at this point in his career. So,
and he's not very expensive this week.
Here's a little nug. I think they're just getting Ertz more involved so they can dangle that trade piece there, baby. So,
that's
thought that
not
too.
A bad call.
I've thought that same thing about him.
But
and I mean, he's not a good Zach Ertz is a catch the ball and fall kind of tight end. Dallas Goedert actually could use some. He could get you some yaks. So I just prefer Goddard. I don't care about Ertz whatsoever. I don't worry about him.
Kyra, I want you to talk to me about your favorite, because at his price, it was tempting for me to put him in every lineup, but I know that's a stupid thing to do in DFS.
Yeah, you always got to mix it
tempting.
up. Or it could be a brilliant thing, you never know. But I know I, for a fact, have Noah Fant in my lineups as well. And how contradicting can I be to tell you? Oh man, all right. How contradicting can I be to tell you not to take Mark Andrews for reasons that I think it's going to be a low-scoring game? It's just like, But he is my favorite opposite play of Mark Andrews is Noah Fant at 4,300 on DraftKings and 5,700 on FanDuel. I like my tight end to have opportunity and a good matchup. So who better than Fant playing against the Ravens, who have given up the second most fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends? And the Broncos are pretty damn beat up at this point on their receiving core. You have no Hamler, no Judy. Last week, Teddy only threw the ball 25 times, and his receivers didn't really do much. It was run game kind of day, so I know that some people might be a little bit off of Fant for that reason. He didn't have a great stat line, but Fant still received the third most targets on the team, even though he threw the ball only 25 times. If the Ravens can keep this game interesting at all, then they're going to need to target Fant in a good matchup versus the Ravens secondary.
Hey, my tight end sucks, so hers is a lot better.
There you go.
Everybody go.
But hey, it goes with your quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, so it's all symbiotic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all comes full circle in the fantasy world.
All right, let's do our last deep sea dive of the night. Kyra, talk to me about diving for a tight end.
Yeah,
which
so my
sounds
deep sea
awful, and I will never use those words together.
Yeah,
it's really bad.
Yeah, you learn as you go, right? You learn as you go. You don't want to say stupid shit for everyone to hear, but we did. Too late. Anyhow, speaking of hard things and not really great things to say, so mine is Pat Freiermuth.
Okay.
Which I hate to say his name because I feel like I'm being set up to talk with a lisp now for the rest of the way.
I like it.
And I just don't want to get stuck like talking like that.
Sounds like something put on top of your coffee.
Yeah, a little mute over it. Anyways,
I need some of that fair mouth.
Yeah, I want the Muth latte. But anyway, the Steelers are banging the hell up, especially on their receiving core as well. Deontay Johnson and Juju Smith-Schuster, if these dudes can't go, and Claypool, who also had a quick injury scare last week, he's going to draw somebody like, there he is again, Jair Alexander. Yeah. So I can see a case where they just have no choice but to find Muth out there. I know that Deontay Johnson has actually been practicing, so that's good, but it helps that offense move overall. So I'm not necessarily fading Pat Freiermuth just because of Deontay Johnson. He saw himself 5 targets last week, and Green Bay is giving up the third most fantasy points per game to tight ends. It is the punt price of 3,100 on DraftKings and 5,000 on FanDuel, so it's not a bad call.
I like it. And Doug, who's your cheap tight end on the week?
I hate this one too. Go with hers again, but Adam Troutman. Maybe played 82% of the snaps. That's about all I got. Back to you in the studio.
But I will say, Giants notoriously bad against tight end, and it's about time for Jameis to go to the right side of Jameis again. So it's not the worst play if you're looking cheap at tight end. I don't mind Adam Troutman at all.
Will be definitely low owned.
And He's done enough to earn that reputation.
Break the slate.
All right, we're going to recap tight ends, and then we're going to jump into some defenses. So at tight end, you're avoiding, this hurts to say, Mark Andrews and Darren Waller. You are starting Noah Fant and Dallas Goedert. And if you're going cheap, you're looking Pat Freiermuth and Adam Troutman. So with defense, we know everybody needs to play a defense. Sometimes it's to fill your lineup at the very last cheapest price. Sometimes you want to go with a little bit more chalky pick. So what I have these guys do is I have them give you a high dollar pick and a low dollar pick. So Kyra, talk to me about your David, your cheap pick, and your Goliath, your expensive pick.
Okay, so I guess I'll start with David. We'll go with the low. And it's ugly, and I know it's ugly, and I'm sorry, but this is it's
ugly on both sides of the ball, though, which could work.
Hey, they kind of cancel 2 negatives, equal positive.
Exactly.
I believe that positive to be the Detroit Lions versus the Bears. Of course, it probably doesn't even matter who's playing quarterback at this point. It doesn't matter if it's going to be Justin Fields. Doesn't matter if it's going to be Nick Foles, Andy Dalton. I don't know, anybody. This is an absolute punt idea regardless. But Chicago's offensive line has just been so freaking pathetic. I mean, they're so bad. I'm sure you guys saw the video of Jason Peters just stop, drop, and rolling on the ground, just trying his damnedest to stop Myles Garrett. And it was sad. I was actually sad as an Eagles fan to watch him go out like that. But the Lions' defensive line actually looked really good last week. They gave up, or not gave up. They had 4 sacks on Lamar. That's pretty good. He's a scrambling guy, especially going up against somebody of that caliber. They actually kept in that game. It wasn't so bad. Also, the Chicago Bears offense has been simply pathetic. Their quarterbacks have been sacked 15 times in 3 weeks. I know a ton of that came on last week, but it's still the numbers. That's what their numbers are. But yeah, it doesn't even matter how gross the Lions defense has been for 2,200 on DraftKings. Could take the punt play there.
If we're paying up, who are you taking?
So if we're going to pay up, I like New Orleans versus New York Giants.
And they're not even all that expensive, are they?
No, they're actually, I
I
think the most expensive is like the Bills, of course, against Houston. I forget who's second, but they're like the third most expensive.
Bills are 4,300. The Titans are second at 3,900.
Oh, that's right. Against
the Titans
third, 3,800.
Okay.
And
honestly,
is the Bears.
I way rather pay for New Orleans than I would the Titans in that game.
Yeah,
to be
Titans
honest,
defense has not looked impressive.
No, they're not great at all. New Orleans has looked impressive. I mean, they've given up the third least points in the league on defense. They've also given up the third least rushing yards. They're kind of middle of the pack when it comes to passing yards. But the Giants' receiving core is completely banged up too. I mean, you're worried about Sterling Shepard. You're worried about Kenny Golladay in this one. And also, New Orleans is second in the league, creating 7 turnovers. They're tied with Arizona right now. So that defense sounds pretty damn good for being the third most price point. I think that's a great Goliath pick. 3,800 on DraftKings, 4,800 on FanDuel.
There we go. And for those who don't know Doug is a big IDP guy, one of the smartest defensive fantasy minds I've had the pleasure of talking with. So, Doug, talk to me about your team defenses for the main slate this week.
All right, and I kind of cheated again. I'm good at that. But anyway, I went.
I like your style, Doug. I cheat all the time.
I was going to say, yeah, you and Kira just causing me headaches.
Right there in the middle. We got Miami, then you skip 1 or 2, and then you got Cleveland right there. Miami, they're playing the Colts. Anybody that has their leading receiver as a guy named Zach Pascal. Anybody, I'm going to fire up on defense. Cleveland versus Minnesota. If Dalvin Cook's struggling, you take away the run game in Minnesota, get in Kirk's face quick, and everything goes downhill for the Vikings because they don't have another dump-off option. Air quotes, tied in. Yeah. Therefore, Cleveland can hone in and almost hat on hat. Hey, John Johnson, you cover over the top with Thielen, Justin Jefferson, and let's see, one of y'all cover Adam Thielen on cross the route. So they can double up their 2 best players. They don't have nothing else to fall back on. I like Cleveland continuing their momentum, and like I said, anybody that's got Zach Pascal as that old number 1.
I love Miami this week too.
I love
like
Miami as well.
A lot.
Wentz has not protected the ball the way you would hope he would. So it's
they lost Quentin Nelson, right? So they're without Quentin Nelson already. Wentz is doing more Wentzly things by holding the ball way too freaking long, and Miami's defense is no slouch. Yeah, they are no slouch, man. They're not bad at all.
Check this out. We know the Arizona Cardinals defense ain't world beaters, right?
Yeah. Right.
27 points versus those Minnesota Vikings because they shut down that run and took away those wide receivers.
There you go.
Fire them up.
I like it. I love Cleveland's defense everywhere. So just to go over, you're looking at New Orleans Saints, Detroit Lions, Miami Dolphins, Cleveland Browns. That's everything. We hit every position. I want to start by thanking Doug. Doug, we talked a little bit about the articles, but I know you have some podcasts and things you also work on your own. Tell everybody where they can find your work, what they can do with you.
YouTube, pretty much type in Oklahomie Doug and, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Discord, Reddit. I go over there on Reddit, watch them ghost stories. I like them ghost stories, man. Go on Reddit, find me there. Twitch, sometimes me and the boy play some of them games he likes. And I get on there and talk to them kids all crazy. One the other day said, "Oh my God, that's that Tiger King guy from Oklahoma."
They thought you were Tiger King.
Yeah, I swear. So now we changed my profile name, Tiger King. So
Yes.
if you need me on Xbox, holler at me, Tiger
Lean
King,
into it.
Oklahomie, and Oklahomie Doug on most.
The Tiger King's
I love
picking the Bengals tonight.
I love it. So make sure you hit subscribe. We would love to have you subscribe. You'll get notifications every time we do videos. We're doing 3 or 4 shows a week. We have small videos for Stream of the Week and Thrive Fantasy. Not only that, our founder, Josh Hudson, spent way too much of his own money on autographed merch, jerseys, footballs. And every time we hit a subscriber milestone, Josh gives something away. We just gave away a David Montgomery jersey last week. We're ready to give things away when we hit 250 followers. So smash that subscribe button. We'd love to have you, and we'd love to give you some things. Make sure you take a look at the link in the description, and anywhere you find us, you can find this link. We are partnered with Thrive Fantasy. Thrive is a combination of DFS and prop betting. They will match your opening deposit up to $100, and it might even be more right now. I'm going to be honest. They sent us an email about a bunch of promos they're doing, and I forgot to read it. But they're going to give you a lot of shit if you use our link and our promo code CLUB, CLUB. So check them out. It's a very cool mix of, like I said, DFS and player prop betting. It's a fun way to look at the games every week. These guys write articles every single week for us. So if you're looking for more DFS, Kyra's Cash Grabs is going to drop sometime Saturday morning. She gives you a good rundown of the entire main slate, players she's looking for, players she's avoiding. It's a really nice article. And Doug breaks down the small slates. I think you said it's going to be the Monday night game this week, Doug?
Sunday Nighter.
So you'll see that sometime in the afternoon.
New England.
That's an exciting one.
Yeah, great game. That's definitely one. And so Doug's going to give you
a captain.
I say he's going to give you his captain plays, his optimal lineup, and an alternative lineup. That's how nice this guy is. He gives you 2 lineups every week.
I can't watch him because if I watch him, forget it.
Josh said play the honorable mention. He's been He's looking at yachts this weekend in New York, watching the playoff games. This guy's rolling. So play those honorable mentions. And
we had a couple of start-sit questions in the chat throughout the show. I try to answer those I can on these ones, but this show is mainly a DFS show. Saturday morning at 11 Eastern, our channel gives 1 hour of just start-sit advice on our show, Start-Sit Different Day. It's a show that is completely about you guys. So if you have any more questions that we haven't got to, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You'll see when we go live, and we're going to be there to answer you Saturday. I think that's everything. Kyra, thank you so much. Doug, thank you so much.
I do want to say 2 things. So I just got the sleeper notification. Carlos Hyde is going to be a healthy inactive tonight.
Oh.
So, okay. See you, Carlos
Glad
Hyde.
I didn't start him.
Thank God. Get him the hell out, though, if that was something that,
so
that you were looking to do. If you were
deep sea diving at Hyde, come back up for air.
And make sure you check out for the article Saturday morning. Last week, we crushed that Cash Grabs article. I think I only got like 3 or 4 misses. It wasn't anything, so just to toot my heart, to toot.
Hey, I love it. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This is DFS and Chill Week 4. We'll see you Saturday for the start set. We'll see you next Thursday. Bye, Deborah.